One of the biggest conversations going on right now in the Commander format is the discussion of whether or not proxy cards have a home or are okay in Commander. I've seen this go on all across social media, and I wanted to weigh in on the issue and see if we can make a little bit of headway towards a solution. To begin, we need to make a clear distinction between what is a proxy and what is a counterfeit. Proxy cards can range from being simple printouts of cards to marker on basic lands to indicate what the card does. Some folks do go one step further and get mock-up cards made that resemble magic cards. One thing to note is that these mock-ups often have a very obvious tell that they are in fact proxy cards. Usually this is in the form of having a different back than a traditional magic card, but generally it is a very obvious detail. A counterfeit magic card is something that is designed and made to look as indistinguishable as possible from a real magic card. These cards are made from the same card stock, use very similar inking processes to real magic cards, and can even make an attempt to replicate things such as the foil stamp that's found on rare cards. These are much harder to point out as fake cards, but unfortunately they do make their way into circulation. One of the biggest problems with the proxy discussion is that people tend to lump in counterfeit cards and all the discussions that should go with those with proxy card discussion. There is an issue with counterfeits being sold and traded, and then later they're found out to be fakes, with a lot of times the person who's either knowingly or unknowingly giving you those cards for your money or your own cards is long gone. Proxy cards should never be obtained with the intent to sell them or trade as if they were real cards. That sort of malicious behavior has no place in our game. The bottom line is if you want to go the proxy route for your Commander experience, whatever proxy cards that you obtain should only ever be used to play the game. They should never be traded or sold or treated in any way similar to a true authentic Magic card. Now, enough with semantics, on to the real discussion. Should we allow proxies in Commander? Well, let me be frank about how I feel about this discussion. I don't care if you need to proxy cards to build your deck. A lot of popular and must-run Commander staples are expensive, and Wizard's system of reprints is problematic and slow at best. You have bills and rent to pay, you have family to feed, and all of that is growing more expensive. So at the end of the day, my priority is that your priorities are tended to. Your financial situation is not my business, and I have no intention of making what could be a stressful circumstance of yours more difficult by taking an elitist attitude towards you trying to enjoy a card game. I am here to play against your deck building skills and your tactical prowess when we play. I'm not here to play against your credit card limits. If I want to play Commander with you, that should be enough, and any financial straits you may find yourself in should not impede you from enjoying a game. We're playing this game as our escapism from our real world stressors. Just do me a favor and make them look good enough that I don't need 100 Scryfall tabs open. To those of you who complain about proxies ruining Magic, I don't understand your problem. Your cards don't lose their value because someone's proxied them. The demand is still there for the real cards, and for all of you reserved list friends, your cards aren't going to suddenly drop in price because Timmy bought an inkjet printer to save a few $100. Keep your Judge promo Gaia's Cradle. It's not going to impact you in any meaningful way if someone at our table has a printout of the card. To gatekeep someone from a game like this because you think your investment in the real cards is somehow a power move against someone who has lesser disposable income, be better. It's not a good look on you to come off as unwelcoming because someone can't afford all the dual lands or staple cards to make their deck capable of holding a candle against you and thought the best solution would be to print out some proxies. It's a game after all. Show better sportsmanship. I think the bigger issue here is the lack of communication. If you come to a table with your optimized decks without first checking where the rest of the table was at, it's going to be a bad experience for anyone who couldn't afford to tune their deck up to the same level you did. Your table is not on a level playing field. You're not going to be able to test how well your deck functions against 3 lesser power decks, and that sort of experience can ruin the game far worse than people are crying that the proxies are going to. To be blunt, pub stomping is really not cool. Now on the flip side, if you do plan to proxy cards, be mindful of what you proxy and why you are choosing this approach. If you're considering a card that is pricey and you want to test it out before you make any steep investments, this is the best way to go about it. If you want to play against tuned and higher powered decks without breaking your bank, do what you need to do to play against them. There is no fun to be had in going to Commander Night at your local game store and finding yourself grossly outclassed by everyone else there. Your $45 budget pre-con deck works well when you're playing against your friends, but at this local game store, the average cost of the decks is somewhere in the $600 to $700 region, and these are just the middle of the road decks, really. If the store is okay with proxies, which you absolutely need to ensure before going further, or if your playgroup is okay for them, for the sake of powering up your deck to match the others, proxy out some of the cards you need to enjoy the game on the same level as others. This brings me to a very, very crucial side note. Official sanctioned events like Pro Tours, GPs, Magic Fests, wherever Wizards is going to be making a sanctioned event, they are not the place to bring your proxy decks. Do not bring proxies to a Wizards sanctioned event with the intent of participating in an official tournament. Local game stores can get into hot water with Wizards if you don't get the okay for them about proxy decks. So always ask before you act with regards to Commander Nights. If you have friends over your house for Commander Night, of course that's a different story, nobody cares. Obviously, Commander does not have any official sponsored tournaments held by Wizards or the like, which is why this proxy conversation can even exist. Tournaments with Commander as the primary format tend to be separately run, such as with the cEDH community and a few organizers therein, and they're often very pro-proxy. In fact, most of the cEDH side of the community has this mindset, simply because the increased cost of building a cEDH deck is way greater than the lower powered side of Commander. If you think Mana Crypt is expensive, take a look at what Mox Diamonds go for these days. If you want to play at that power level, or if your playgroup wants to play at that power level, it's a better financial move to just proxy out your cEDH deck or your higher powered deck than invest hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to a deck. Now, of course, be reasonable here. Don't proxy out a deck worth a mortgage payment if your playgroup is largely a more casual, lower powered bunch. It's equally not cool to proxy out a blue farm cEDH list and then go mop the floor with the folks playing modified precons or their fun theme deck. Read the room. Again, don't do the pub stomping thing. I really do hope this conversation can be fruitful. I want the Commander format to continue growing, and if we can make a simple concession like this for those who want to play who might not be able to afford to, I will fight for them. I'm sure if the circumstances were different and you were the one struggling to get into the game, I'm sure you would hope that folks would have that empathy towards you. I've seen so many aspects of this conversations become unpleasant because, let's be honest here, a lot of folks tend to lack tact and social skills, and so I've seen a lot of these conversations turn sour and snarky. But at the end of the day, we really do need to have a baseline for a conversation with this whole proxy thing. I don't find it to be a risk to the longevity of Magic as a game. I think it's a great alternative for folks who don't have the resources at their disposal to afford those steep investments. And I think by discouraging sort of gatekeeping elitism that we see here and there, we can make this a much more enjoyable experience for everyone. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe this opened up a bit of discussion. If so, remember to like and share, and I'll catch you all in the next one.